Hey sugar, Stark here. Fancy a ride in my convertible? Well, that will be the last ride. 1998 Volkswagen Cabrio, very similar to the VW Golf. 2-litre, 8-valve, 4-cylinder engine. This one surprised me a little because it has an automatic transmission. I expected a manual. I did give consideration to repairing the vehicle, but a little too much rust, naughty, and a problem with the Volkswagen 2-litre ABA engine nailed my decision to junk the vehicle. Now, I'll try to walk us through what we think happened to the engine without too much umming and ahhing. I'll do my best. This is somewhat conjecture. When we cranked over the engine on the starter, we noticed that while the engine would turn, the distributor rotor would not. There's where the distributor would normally be mounted. That distributor rotor, and Volkswagen enthusiasts will know this already, I didn't, is operated by a shaft which runs across the engine. The shaft also powers the oil pump, and that shaft is turned by the timing belt operating upon this large pulley. It's not the same pulley as the crankshaft pulley, which is underneath and back. Well, that struck me strange, that the engine would turn over and yet it would not turn the distributor rotor. Well, knowing that this engine, this 2-litre ABA, is an interference engine, or at least that's what I was told by my local parts shop, then I suspected that we may have a problem in the cylinder head. Because it was obvious that the timing belt wasn't being turned. We could see that wasn't going around once we stripped away the covering of the timing belt. So I expected a problem in the cylinder head. Well, we removed the cylinder head, and didn't see any problems with either the valves nor the pistons in the engine. So despite being told that the engine was an interference engine, we don't have any typical interference damage here. We tried to rotate the camshaft in the cylinder head on the workbench and found that it was seized. Even with a good sized knuckle bar, could not rotate this camshaft without loosening the bearing caps first. Only then would it rotate. And what we found is that there's extensive damage caused by a small piece of aluminum, which I suspect came off around this oil porthole. We can see the damage on the camshaft here, and the damage to the aluminum cylinder head is severe. If you can feel it with your fingernail, it's bad, and this is really rough. So that piece of metal caused the camshaft to seize. And when the camshaft seized, then the teeth of the timing belt around the bottom pulley, the crankshaft pulley, were ground away by the rotation of the crankshaft, a little bit, I guess, as the car coasted to a stop. And then, of course, every time that the owners and the repair shop where it was subsequently sent to tried to restart the engine, so every time they tried to start the engine, the crankshaft pulley would be grinding the teeth out of the timing belt. Meanwhile, the timing belt couldn't turn because the camshaft was seized in the cylinder head. So given that there appeared to be no damage to the engine block, then it would have been possible to repair this engine. I could have purchased a replacement cylinder head complete with valves and camshaft, used of course, for around $100. That's a good price. But then there would be another $150 in a cylinder head gasket kit. I'm not sure if that price would include or exclude the cylinder head bolts, but they would be required because they're stretch bolts. And I don't know, maybe another $200 in my mechanic's time to put it back together. Well, once you start getting up to around $800 or so, it's getting questionable as to whether the car is worth repairing. I paid $300 to buy this car for junk. I won't get quite that much, maybe $200 at the salvage yard later today. But I'm willing to pay more than I get because I sell the parts from them. That's where I earn my money, from selling the pieces, not from recycling the body. That just gets me most of my initial outlay back. Well, thank you so much for watching. As I said, a little bit of conjecture, but that's what I think happened to the engine. 1998 Volkswagen Cabrio.